Here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Wednesday, May 7th, 326 on this fine Wednesday afternoon, Fed Day. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from there. It's going to be a really quick rant. I don't have all my charts here, but take a look at the S&P. Pretty much flat, exactly flat as as I'm getting on right now. Choppy afternoon session. The Fed released their statement, and then the Powell presser. Not much, right? So the Fed stood pat on rates, so they didn't cut the rates, and then they did add some changes to their statement, right? So they had risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation. Have the risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation have risen, right? So that wasn't in there at the last statement. Um, and what else did they talk? Oh, and then they talked about the swings in net exports affecting the data, right? So the GDP data that came out with that the imports have to uh, get taken out, so it affects the GDP number. So pretty much in a nutshell, Powell just kept on reiterating. It's like they asked the same exact question over and over again, just worded it the different way. Why are we not cutting rates, right? What would it take to cut rates? And he just said pretty much what he said at the last meeting. Data remains strong. The hard data remains strong, despite the soft data saying, "Hey, there's a recession coming, or extreme inflation's coming, or unemployment's coming." So until that changes, they're going to stand pat. So who knows how if the expectations get pulled back just a little bit, and then the concern here, at least for me, is if POTUS starts coming out again with some with some tweets tonight. You have to think he's going to read the headlines. He's going to, and who knows if that comes back into play. I hope not. But anyway, so watching early and well, not if the spy is down a tenth of a percent. All right. So just watching the spy, I talked about that 50-day moving average. Just want to see that hold here today. That's it's 553.96 now. 555 was kind of like the line in the sand that maybe I would look to get some spec calls on SQQQ as a hedge. It came close, right? And then we bounced. We'll see here how things look at the end of the day. The thing with the last two sessions, Monday and Tuesday, we had pullbacks at the end of the day, right? About 340 or so. So hopefully we don't get a similar setup. And then I think maybe to set things up for moving to the end of the week, and then in anticipation of the talks over the weekend, I guess some damper that was put on the markets today. POTUS is doing his, I guess, induction of whoever is the China um, official, the representative, the U.S. China official, whatever, however you word that. And then he said that there's no, they're not going to talk. They're not going to talk about lowering the 145% tariffs. Whatever. It just wasn't the kind of commentary you wanted to hear. So that probably could put some wind in the sails of the market. But anyway, I wouldn't say best case scenario for the Fed meeting, but we'll see if we can hold here until the close. And I think maybe it sets things up for the rest of the week. Also, you take a look at the yields, which are actually going down, and yep, yields are lower, and then the U.S. dollar was higher. So two other things you kind of want to see. Yeah, and the dollar's ramping here. So good signs nonetheless. So that's kind of the overall market. This week, there's still some earnings after the close. A lot of special AppLovin reports after the close. I just posted the implied moves. It's crazy. If you go look at AppLovin, I think like 7 of the past 8 moves have been green to the upside. The one red session that it closed down the next day was down 1%. And then the rest of them were like 24, 25, 48% moves to the upside. So pretty impressive stuff. Not a name I trade, but I remember looking at that one last couple times over earnings, and I used to watch it in tandem with Unity, right? Because a little bit kind of some overlap there, and it used to be like $40 and $60, and and I watched the earnings. I'm like, what does this thing do? And I could never figure out what it did, and I probably should have, but then I probably got the calls when these short pieces came out on AppLovin. All right, so that's overall market. Just some individual names. First, back in TripAdvisor, I had some April strikes. It was good to me back early in the year and to end of last year, and then I did add some strikes that didn't do so well after its last earnings report. But then they reported a great quarter, and to me, you look, it was down to $13. Here's a story that the company has been approached for buyouts for $18 a nix, and I think up to $19. That was back in the fall. They also have 2 high growth segments. I'm not going to go on a rant on TripAdvisor, but you take a look at the earnings. I thought great report. And then it was over its 50-day moving average of 13 and change. I started looking. The calls are a heck of a lot less expensive now, further out of money than they were back in December. And when I talk about the same kind of increments out of the money, were a heck of a lot more expensive. So now the risk reward looks much better. So I went and got the June strikes. I'll hold on to those. Hopefully, get an opportunity to close some out to cover costs when I get a chance. I had them at 50. They filled at 48 and only filled me one contract. So then I went and got some more at 55. So my average around 52, 53. And I'll just hold those. Really like this story. 200-day moving average right up there, 1470. And you look, Expedia, Booking, all have had some good reports. And I think, I don't think it'll take much for it to continue to run. All right, so that's that. I also, then just quick on other names deck, which is over 120 here. I was just posting in the chat room. I don't think this one's going to take too much to run it to the end of the week, especially as anticipation picks up here for possible, whether it be a pause or some kind of surprise news event over the weekend. So it's over its 50-day moving average again, finally, after taking a breather yesterday. Get close over here 120. I think it sets up. It won't take much for it to get into to over 130. So really like that one. And then Fiverr. So, I guess not in hindsight, but Fiverr's up nearly close to 8% here, hit 29, chopping around here at 28.86 or 28.75. Great report. In the midst of all this uncertainty and the tariffs and everything and the AI and competitive concerns and all these things, great quarter. And, it's back over its 200-day moving average. I was talking about 27.40. Unfortunately, I wish it was a gap and go this morning. I don't know why it didn't gap and go. And then the premiums came out of $30 strikes, but I like this one for move over $30. Strong relative to the rest of the market. Even when the market shook a little bit at the Fed, once the Fed statement came out, it held like a stone. So I think that's a good sign there. So that's Fiverr. I'll continue to hold those strikes. I'm not going to add any more. And then I added some PM calls finally. Hopefully that's not the end of its rally. Just hit another all-time high earlier. Just slow and steady upside. It's like one of those great stories. I don't think it matters what the market does because as they shift from bad products, the cigarette side, to these other products that folks can still get the same kind of feeling they get with the cigarettes without having all those adverse effects, and you have this whole culture around health picking up. I think it just bodes well. So, I mean, obviously the stock has soared. I think it's a double since the start of 2024, but I think it goes over 180 in the coming days. So I'll continue to hold those strikes. Yeah, I mean, disappointing on some of the biotechs. VKTX is green here today, but I'll just continue to hold the rest of my calls for next week. Still holding freebies there. GPCR is up 3%, but not near where it was yesterday. But I guess a good sign. Still holding a couple of those. 25 strikes. I'll continue to hold those. Don't have many. Once I close those out, I'll add some later dated strikes. Still staring at Reddit, frustrating. Monday I almost got the 130s. Yesterday I almost got the 125s. This morning I almost got 120s, and then it's just sitting here. And I don't know if the news with Google and Google sold off today because there talks of Apple and their Safari browser getting an AI search or what have you, which to me it almost looks like Google. It was like people are waiting for negative news on Google because it's like over the years you're waiting for the news of Google's dominance in the search engine, like that phase of their story to be over, right? The competitive concerns. I mean, Bing, who remembers Microsoft? Oh, it's going to kill Google. Never did. And so, maybe at some point they do. I think it's AI is probably going to kill them, right? I mean, because it's like I can go and do Grok could be what Google does, right? I mean, that's or Chat GPT or all these other platforms. So to me, that's the end of that. But they still have the YouTube and other growth areas. But funny how that one's pulling back. But I thought it might help Reddit, right? But it's just, I mean, it's down another 5% today, and I mean, it's one of the best growth stories out there. So kind of shocking to see it down there. But anyway, other names after the close. You have Melly Cabra. Gosh, a name I used to wish I traded over the years. Axon. That's a great name in regards to security, right? The cameras for cops and for law enforcement and all that fun stuff. That one had a great. No, it got sold off. Then it had a great earnings rally, and then it sold back down. Not a name I've traded before, but it's always interesting. But I'm just going to pass on that one. But be fun to watch. AMC after the close. You have Carvana. Carvana is an interesting name. Again, another one of those names I don't trade. Carvana, back in the day when I used to be long Cardlytics, the same guy, not Kaiser Sosen, Clifford Sosen, he's always been long that name. I don't know if he's still in, but it's always one of those stories. It's either, it was 200, then down to 20, then 200, then you have the short piece out by Hindenburg Research saying all these loans that the company has taken is going to be the end of them. But meanwhile, all the company has to do at their stock price just do an offering, and that alleviates the entire bear case on the name. But you think are they going to have a monster quarter because of the pent up, not the pent up, but the carry forward of all this demand for cars, right? People all, it's like I use the analogy a couple times already. People going out, get the milk, bread, and eggs after the weather person comes on and says a blizzard's coming. And then 2 days later, you come out when the blizzard's supposed to be there and it's sun, right? Sunny day. So, all right, that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.